guys, welcome back to my channel Curls Books and Bites. My name is Mohita and in this video I will be making a consolidated list of all my favorite books of 2018. Almost every book in this list is something that I have reviewed in depth on my channel, so make sure you look for that video as well. I will try and link all these books, all the book reviews down in the description box, or I will leave the cards here. And I'm going to start with the Bartimaeus series. This is the first book in the Bartimaeus trilogy. These three books are written by Jonathan Stroud. What I found exciting about this series is I really like the kind of world that has been built by Jonathan Stroud, and besides that his writing is witty, hilarious, is funny, extremely sarcastic. So we have two main characters throughout the series. One is Bartimaeus and the other is Nightingale. Essentially the magical system works in a way that the magicians do not have inherent magic of their own, but instead they undergo this rigorous training and studying through which they are able to call upon these demons or supernatural beings or mythical creatures to do their bidding. Also, the entire world is governed by such magicians, and we get to see mostly things that happen in London. Nathaniel and Bartimaeus cannot really see eye to eye. They are constantly bickering, but somehow they just manage to work together and save the day towards the end of all books. Another one of my favorites of 2018 was Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy book. What I liked about this book is that it was probably one of the very few books that gave me Harry Potter-like vibes. It made me go back to the days when I used to read these books that made me feel really hopeful and magical and maybe a little bit naive, but where it was easier to believe that the world is a super awesome, beautiful and really nice place to live in. This book follows the story of Morrigan Crow, who is an 11-year-old girl, and she is believed to be a cursed child, and everybody around her believes that because of the curse that she has, anybody who comes in contact with her will be touched by ill fate or bad luck. So Morrigan Crow is constantly apologetic of her existence. But the actual bad news is that her main curse is that she is doomed to die exactly at the age of 11. Now, right at the moment that she is about to die, she is whisked away to this magical kingdom called Nevermore, and that is where the Harry Potter vibes start really kicking in, because you get to experience a sense of discovery of this whole magical kingdom, a magical land that you never knew existed in that universe. And from there on, Morrigan Crow is thrown into the adventures of the magical kingdom, where she has to take up these magical tests and tasks and find her power and find her mettle. It's a very hopeful and bright sort of a book, and it will definitely lift your spirits up. Another one of my favorite fantasies is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book that I read from this author. This is the kind of book that will really satisfy you as a reader. You will be really happy about understanding and getting to know this really intricate world building that the author has to offer. At some point in time, Elantris used to be like this magical sort of a town, and in it lived people who were termed as the Elantrians. They had magical abilities, they had these healing powers. The book opens with explaining to us that Elantris is definitely not what it used to be before. It has completely fallen down and is in a physical state of decay. Also, now the Elantrians have not only lost all their magical powers, but are not even like normal healthy human beings anymore. There is a town that surrounds Elantris, and there is a parallel storyline with a lot of political intrigue and religious approaches, and it's a fantastic read. And I wouldn't say that this is completely like an action-packed book, but I guess the magic in this book is sort of research based, and you get to study a lot. There is also a lot of mystery around Elantris, and you really want to know what really happened with Elantris to have fallen and collapsed in such a way. And finally, I think I'm done with all the fantasy series. This is the Final Fantasy? This is the Final Fantasy series that I'm going to talk about, and this has been so rewarding to read in 2018. This one is written by Lee Bardugo. The first book is called Six of Crows. The second book is called Crooked Kingdom. This has everything that I enjoy in an adventure book. It is slightly dark, a little bit gritty, and I guess it gets a little bit serious at some points. Also, it has a lot of cheesiness because most of the characters are teenagers, so there is a lot of angst, a little bit of romance. Actually, it has a little bit of everything, and I really loved reading these books, especially because they are super fast paced, they are extremely entertaining, and there is a lot of wit and cleverness that is thrown around in this book. It had so many unexpected moments that took me completely by surprise. These two books follow the story of these 6 members. They're kind of misfits who come together to pull off a heist which is extremely risky and dangerous, but at the same time it is also giving them a chance to win an amount of money that they have never dreamt of. But it is a suicide mission, but all these 6 somehow agree to come together. You get to read the story from the perspectives of all these 6 characters who are so completely different from each other. They have their own strengths, own weaknesses, own uniqueness, own abilities, and it's amazing to read their past and how it affects their present decisions that they make, how they either bond with each other or they just keep growing apart. It's a fantastic read. I definitely urge you to pick these 2 books up if you haven't already. Moving on to fiction, I definitely have to talk about The Help. This was such a moving, touching book. At the same time, this book is full of wit and humor. So this book deals with the racism issue that is still prevalent in America, but this one especially deals with the racism issue that was faced by Black Americans in the 1960s in Mississippi. It is very powerful, impactful, but somehow I found myself smiling throughout this entire book. So you get to meet 3 main characters, out of which 2 are these Black American maids who have been working for the white American families for generations, and despite that they are not really treated in the way that they should be. The main 2 African maids that you get to meet and know in this book are Aibileen and Minnie, and then you also get to meet Skeeter. Skeeter is a white American young female, and she is definitely trying to discover herself, and she understands that the way that these Black Americans are treated is not entirely correct. So she decides to take up a project in order to bring this issue to limelight in a very different way. The next book that again lies in the fiction genre will be The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This one is one of the few serious books that I picked up in 2018, and boy am I glad I did it. This novel follows the story of 2 sisters. The language of this book is pretty straightforward and it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to imagine the kind of struggles and battles that the women went through during the World War II. So this book presents to us the World War from the eyes of the women who have not personally entered the battlefield and battled against the Nazis hand to hand, but these are the women who have stayed back home and they have had their own struggles and battles to fight. It's a beautiful book, it's a sad book, but it is also that one book that has impacted me the most. And I remember after I finished the book, I just closed it and I cried straight for the next 10 minutes. It was very, very powerful, strong and heavy, but it's definitely a book that you should pick up. Moving on to the next book, this is a mythological retelling of the Greek mythology from the perspective of Circe. So Circe is written by Madeline Miller, and this I will call the most beautiful book that I have read in 2018. So this is that book which has spoken directly to my soul. The language flows like a river. The language is so musical, it's lyrical and poetic. The book is also quite deep and philosophical. In this book, you get to see the journey of Circe from a weak, a little bit vile and vain sort of a child to becoming her own woman after she finds her own power of witchcraft, and the way she decides to hoard that power, to work hard on her skills, and to just be a lot more confident, a lot more forgiving, a lot more understanding of people, becoming a good judge of character. Everything about this book is to just drift along with and to completely lose yourself in. Listen to this. I had a little pride, as I have said, and that was good. More would have been fatal. Let me say what sorcery is not. It is not divine power. which comes with a thought and a blink. It must be made and worked, planned and searched out, dug up, dried, chopped and ground, cooked, spoken over and sung. Even after all that, it can fail, as gods do not. If my herbs are not fresh enough, if my attention falters, if my will is weak, the draughts go stale and rancid in my hands. By rights, I should never have come to witchcraft. Gods hate all toil. It is their nature. The closest we come is weaving or smithing. But these things are skills, and there is no drudgery to them, since all the parts that might be unpleasant are taken away with power. Witchcraft is nothing but drudgery. Each herb must be found in its den, harvested in its time, grubbed up from the dirt, culled and stripped, washed and prepared. It must be handled this way then that, to find out where its power lies. I'm dead. Moving on to the next really amazing book that I read. Now this might not be a 5-star for me, but it's definitely somewhere between 4.5 and 4.75. That is The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. She has really done such a brilliant job of retelling Mahabharata from the point of view of Draupadi or Panchali. Also, she has really brought down all the characters of the Mahabharata from their pedestal and really humanized them and made them a lot more relatable. This book is a first-person narrative of Draupadi, of all the things that she sees happening, which is the Mahabharata at the end. What I really enjoyed and appreciated about her writing is that Draupadi is not shown to be entirely pious and flawless. You get to see Draupadi as a very stubborn child, and she grows into a woman who is a little bit manipulative. Sometimes she sacrifices all of her happiness for the person that she really cares for. Sometimes she gets really angry and jealous. At times you see her changing from being a selfish person to a selfless person. And the vocabulary and the writing skills that this author has simply moved me and completely blew my mind away. Moving on to the next book. This is again a 5-star book. Absolutely 100% entertaining, fast-paced, mysterious. That is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is also a TV series. So Big Little Lies follows the story of 3 women. The common thing between these 3 women is that they are parents to children who go to the same school. The first woman is Jane, and she has just recently moved to town. She is a single mother. She moves to town with her son. The first woman that she meets is Madeline, who later becomes a very close friend. Madeline is so full of crazy, mad energy. She is completely enthusiastic. She also loves confronting people. She thrives in chaos, and she's that one character who really makes things happen in this book. And then the third woman is Celeste, who is this beautiful mother of 2 twin boys. She has a picture perfect family with a rich and handsome husband, but Celeste holds a deep dark secret. The book opens with a revelation of a murder that takes place, and the entire story builds up to that murder. And with each new secret learned, you keep speculating about the murder. Big Little Lies is extremely fast-paced, it is witty, all the characters are completely realistic and believable, and its entertainment value is completely on point. Another book that I definitely want to mention here, this one again is probably 4.75 stars, but this one is a book that will have such a huge impact on your life, and that is Remnants of a Separation by Aanchal Malhotra. The Remnants of a Separation is kind of a research document, but at the same time it is also written very beautifully and movingly by Aanchal Malhotra. Aanchal Malhotra's writing style, her vocabulary, her plethora of knowledge, her impeccable use of words, and her hard work and effort in bringing this book together is so evident all throughout. Throughout the book you get to see the story of partition told in and around a particular object that the families back then, exactly at the time of partition, when they had to wrap everything up, close their houses and move borders, what kind of an object did they decide to carry with them. So you get to either see fabrics or some ornaments or maybe utensils, and there are these beautiful, extremely moving and touching stories around these objects. It is a book that as an Indian, every single person should definitely read. Another honorable mention that I have for you guys is 5 Quarters of the Orange by Joanne Harris. This again is a beautiful book. It's a very different and unique book. Joanne Harris has a very unique writing style. This book follows the story of Framboise Simon, who returns to her village after many years. Many years ago, her mother was held responsible for for a tragedy that happens in the village, and now that Framboise has returned to the village, she's afraid that people are going to find out who she really is. Framboise inherits a recipe book from her mother, and while she's going through that recipe book, trying to run a small restaurant business in her old family house, she finds herself getting lost in a lot of her childhood memories, and she remembers the kind of strained and unconventional relationship that she had with her mother and her sibling. And the portrayal of kids in this book has been done so realistically and has been presented in a much more believable fashion. Reading this book was a surreal experience for me, and I also learned a lot about using language in a very different way. The story of 5 Quarters of the Orange is very touching, moving. It's sweet at times, maybe a little bit bitter, and it will definitely bring out feelings of guilt, maybe a little bit of emptiness, but it's definitely a very impactful sort of a book. Alright, with that, I think I have to end my favorite lists here. I did manage to read a lot of really good books in 2018, but these are the books that really stood out for me. The one question that I asked myself was, would it have made a difference to my past year had I not picked up any of these books? And to whichever book that I nodded a yes to, I decided to put it on this list. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and also do follow me on Instagram for food, travel and book related photos. Also make sure that you click on that notification icon so that every time I post either a food or a book related video, you will get notified. Let me know what other kind of book related videos you would like me to make for you, and until next time, bye.